All right, so let's dive into something that's, I mean, it's both futuristic A&D, very much happening right now, humanoid robots. I mean, Elon Musk is already predicting we'll have what 10 billion of these things by 2040. It's crazy. But we're here to break down a recent report on this very topic. It's called a Metatrend report.
Hmm.
It's packed with insights from industry leaders and analysis from big investment firms. And we're gonna try to give you the need to know info, without the information overload.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating convergence of technology and market forces and frankly just human needs that's pushing this forward. I think this report does a great job of kind of connecting all those dots for us.
Yeah, exactly. So first things first, why is this the moment humanoid robots are taking off? The report calls it the perfect storm of innovation. And I have to admit that phrasing really hooked me right away. So what's behind that dramatic title?
Well, it's the idea that, several key technologies have matured almost simultaneously. And this has created like the perfect environment for these robots to flourish. It's not just one breakthrough, it's really the combination of them. Kind of like I don't know, like baking a cake. You need the flour, the eggs, the sugar all coming together in the right proportions.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So what are the key ingredients in this humanoid robot cake?
Well, the first one is what the report calls like the brain, multimodal generative AI. This is really what allows robots to not just move, but to like see, listen, speak, and even learn from the environment. They're processing all this information from cameras, microphones, all kinds of sensors, and using that data to interact with the world in a much more sophisticated way than ever before.
So it's not just like pre-programmed movements anymore.
No, not at all. These robots can actually perceive and respond in real time. Then you have what we might call the body, advanced actuators and sensors. This gives them the dexterity to move more like humans, with the ability to actually sense and interact with their surroundings. We're talking really refined motors and gears and sensors, allowing for surprisingly fluid movement.
This makes me think of those videos of Tesla's Optimus robot. Yeah, doing those, I mean, dare I say, pretty impressive dance moves. It's one thing to build a robot that can walk, but to see one move with that kind of coordination is a whole other level.
It's really remarkable how fast that tech is advancing. And those dance moves really highlight something crucial. Those 22 degrees of freedom the Optimus robot has in its hands?
Okay, 22 degrees of freedom. Break that down for me. What does that actually mean, and why should I care?
Well, think about all the intricate ways that we as humans use our hands. I mean, we can pick up a delicate egg, we can thread a needle, we can play the piano. Those 22 degrees of freedom mean the robot's getting closer to that level of dexterity. And that opens up just a whole world of potential applications.
So you're saying we're moving beyond robots just welding things in factories to robots that can, like, potentially perform surgery or create art.
Potentially, yes. But there's another crucial ingredient in this whole mix, one that often gets overlooked: plummeting battery costs. This is really what's making longer operation times possible for these robots. It's pushing them closer to being truly viable for a wider range of tasks. Imagine a robot that can work for an entire sheet without needing to be recharged. That changes everything.
It does make you wonder, if all this is happening so rapidly,
Yeah.
is it purely driven by just the cool factor? I mean, are we just building these robots because we can, or are there some deeper forces at play here?
That's where I think this report gets really interesting. It makes a strong argument that this isn't just about the wow factor. There are real market needs driving this development. And one that really stands out is the labor shortage crisis.
So instead of robots taking jobs, we should be thinking of them as filling gaps that already exist in the workforce.
Exactly. The report highlights two sectors in particular: elderly care and manufacturing. In the US, by 2030, we're looking at about a 25% dependency ratio. That means for every 100 people of working age, there will be 25 people over the age of 70 needing some level of care.
Wow. More people over 70 than people to care for them. That really puts things into perspective.
It does. And when you combine that with the ongoing struggles to find workers in manufacturing, particularly for repetitive or dangerous jobs, you can see why businesses are looking at these robots as a potential solution. We're already seeing companies like Tesla planning to deploy their Optimus robots in their own factories.
So these robots aren't just replacing jobs no one wants. They're filling a critical need that's only going to become more acute in the years to come. This brings up a question I was thinking about. How long until human minimum wage exceeds the cost of a capable robot? And is that even the right way to frame it?
It's a really important question, and Honestly, in some cases, we're already past that point, but it's a bit more nuanced than just comparing hourly wages. This report really emphasizes that this is happening now, not in some far off future. Costs are dropping rapidly, capabilities are increasing exponentially, and the implications are starting to ripple through industries as we speak.
Okay, so we've got this perfect storm of technology. We've got these labor needs. What about the companies actually building these robots? I understand the report highlights 16 key players we should be watching.
Absolutely. From established giants like Tesla to, smaller, scrappy startups, the innovation happening right now is just astounding. And what's interesting is that they're not all taking the same approach. Some are laser focused on practicality, while others are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
All right, let's meet these robot makers. I'm ready to hear what they're up to.
Well, let's start with one you mentioned earlier, Tesla and their Optimus robot. I mean, those dancing videos are certainly attention grabbing. But the real story here is their plan to deploy 1,000 Optimus units in their own factories this year.
It's like they're creating their own little robot workforce. I mean, it's a sci-fi scenario playing out right in front of us.
It is. And their Gen 3 Optimus is coming with those 22 degrees of freedom in the hands, meaning they could be capable of some really intricate tasks. What I find fascinating is that their approach seems very pragmatic. They're focused on solving their own labor needs first,
hmm
and then potentially expanding from there.
It's a smart strategy. Kind of like building a proof of concept within their own little ecosystem. Okay, so Tesla is definitely one to watch. But what about the other companies? What other approaches are they taking?
While some are focused on different aspects of humanoid development. You have Figure AI, for example. They're really pushing the boundaries of communication with their Figure 02 robot. Not only does it have this really sleek, almost futuristic design, but it also has speech-to-speech capabilities.
So you can actually have a conversation with this robot. That's both amazing and a little unnerving.
Right. And they're not just building prototypes. Figure 02 is already deployed at a BMW factory, not as a trial run, but as like a permanent fixture. So we're seeing these robots move beyond the research lab into actual real-world applications at an accelerating pace.
It's incredible to think that just a few years ago, this was all in the realm of science fiction. And now it's like happening right before our eyes. Okay, so we've got Tesla focused on those practical applications, Figure AI pushing the boundaries of communication. What other innovations are out there?
Well, if you're looking for something unique, how about a robot with bird-like legs? Agility Robotics Digit is designed to navigate really complex environments, making it ideal for things like logistics and warehouse work.
This is where it gets really interesting for me. We've all seen those headlines about supply chain disruptions and the labor shortages in those sectors. Could humanoid robots actually be part of the solution?
That's certainly the bet Agility Robotics is making. They're building this massive factory with the capacity to churn out 10,000 digit units per year. So they clearly see a huge market for this tech, especially as those labor challenges continue to grow.
10,000 robots a year. The scale is just mind-boggling. But let's not forget about the company that's really been at the forefront of humanoid robotics for years, often making headlines with their viral videos. Boston Dynamics and their Atlas robot.
Ah, Atlas, the robot known for its backflips and parkour skills. But
Yeah.
there's actually more to the story than just those flashy stunts. They've recently transitioned to all-electric power for Atlas, which I think signals a shift toward real-world practicality. It's no longer just about showcasing what's possible. It's about making Atlas a viable tool for various industries.
It seems like a natural progression. You start by pushing the boundaries of what the technology can do, and then you figure out how to actually make it useful in the real world. That's where the true potential lies.
Exactly. And they've partnered with Toyota, combining their hardware expertise with Toyota's advanced AI capabilities. So they're definitely a company to keep an eye on.
Okay, before we move on, I have to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the affordability of some of these robots. I mean, it's crazy to think that Unitree's G1 starts at just US $16,000. That's more accessible than a lot of cars these days.
It is remarkable how they've managed to make this technology so relatively affordable. And their public demonstrations of the G1's mobility have really captured a lot of people's imaginations. It's not just about the price tag, it's about making this technology accessible to, researchers, smaller businesses, even hobbyists.
So it's not just these big players like Tesla and Toyota driving this forward. Smaller companies are playing a crucial role as well.
Okay, I know we could spend all day talking about each of these companies, but the report actually highlights 11 more that are doing some really amazing things. Do we have time to touch on a few of those?
Absolutely. You have 1X Technologies who are focusing on robots designed for home environments, even incorporating emotion recognition. Imagine a robot that can not only help you with chores, but also understand and respond to your mood. Then there's Agibot, whose robot has incredible dexterity, capable of threading needle. I mean, that level of precision opens up a whole new world of possibilities for tasks requiring fine motor skills. And let's not forget Apptronic, whose robots are really designed with human collaboration and safety in mind. They're emphasizing features that allow them to work alongside people without posing a risk. That last one is really important. This whole idea of robots and humans working side by side. It's becoming less and less like science fiction and more like an inevitable part of our future. What other companies caught your eye in the report?
Well, Beijing HREC is doing something really interesting. They're developing an open source platform for humanoid robots. This could be a real game changer, making the technology more accessible, fostering more collaboration among developers worldwide. Then there's Engine AI, who are using an end-to-end neural network to create incredibly fluid and human-like movement in their robots. It's almost like watching a dancer the way they move. And Engineered Arts is really focused on hyper-realistic facial expressions and conversational abilities, striving to create robots that can interact with humans on like a much deeper level.
It's so fascinating to see all the different approaches these companies are taking. Some focused on pure functionality, others pushing the boundaries of like human-robot interaction. It really does seem like we're at this pivotal moment where science fiction is rapidly becoming reality.
We are. And this report doesn't shy away from the potential economic impact either. The projections are staggering. You have Goldman Sachs predicting a $38 billion market by 2035. Morgan Stanley is even more optimistic, putting the U.S. market at $1 trillion by 2050. And then Macquarie raises the stakes even further with a global projection of $3 trillion by 2050.
Those are some huge numbers. And it's clear that these humanoid robots are poised to disrupt multiple industries. But there's one prediction that really jumped out at me. ARK Invest's jaw-dropping forecast of a $24 trillion market.
That one really gets your attention, doesn't it? It highlights the potential for truly massive disruption. And it's worth noting that their prediction assumes these robots are operating at scale in both households and manufacturing. It paints this picture of a future where robots aren't just confined to factories or research labs, but they're actually integrated into our everyday lives, helping us with chores, assisting with eldercare, even becoming companions.
That brings up a question that I think a lot of people have about this whole robot revolution. What does all this mean for jobs? Are we all just going to be replaced by robots?
It's a valid concern, and it's one that the report addresses head on. But instead of framing it as this battle between humans and robots for jobs, they encourage us to think about it through a different lens, the lens of abundance.
Abundance. Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this perspective. Abundance, it sounds almost utopian, but I gotta say I'm a little skeptical. How does that apply to a world where robots are, capable of doing so many jobs that humans do now?
Well, think of it this way. If robots are taking over those tasks that are dangerous, repetitive, just undesirable, it frees us up, humans, to focus on things that really require our unique human skills, like creativity, problem solving, critical thinking, emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at. It's not about robots replacing us. It's about them taking on tasks that we frankly might not want to do anyway. But is there going to be enough of those uniquely human jobs to go around?
That's where the abundance idea comes in. This report actually quotes Brett Adcock. He's the CEO of Figure AI. He says you can basically create a world where goods and services prices are trending to zero in the limit and GDP spikes to infinity.
Wow.
It's a bold statement for sure, and it requires a bit of a paradigm shift in how we think about work and economics. But it's a fascinating concept to explore.
So instead of robots stealing all the jobs, we could actually end up creating a world where robots enable this level of abundance we've never seen before.
Exactly. Imagine a world where the cost of goods and services just plummets because so much of the labor is automated. It's not just about robots taking jobs, it's about robots transforming the whole economic landscape.
Okay, yeah. I'm starting to grasp the potential here. But it is a lot to wrap your head around. It's not just about technology. It's about a fundamental shift in how we view work value, even our place in society.
Absolutely. And while this report does paint a pretty optimistic picture of potential abundance, it also acknowledges the challenges. It brings up, those questions about income inequality and the need for new social safety nets and the importance of, retraining and education to prepare the workforce for this new reality.
Yeah, it's a complex issue with no easy answers. But it's definitely something we need to be talking about, not just from a tech perspective, but from a social and ethical one as well.
For sure. And this is where I think the report gets really interesting. It goes beyond, just listing all the companies and the technology. And it asks some really thought-provoking questions about the future, like if humanoid robots, DO, become as common as cars,
What does that world look like for you? What skills are going to be the most valuable in a world where robots are doing, so many of the things we do now?
That's a big question, and honestly, one that I hadn't really considered before diving into this report.
It's easy to get caught up in the wow factor of the tech. But we need to be thinking about those long-term implications. If robots are handling so many of the manual and even cognitive tasks, what does that mean for humans? What skills will be in high demand? What new opportunities will emerge?
Yeah, you're right. We need to be proactive, not just reactive. So if someone's listening to this right now and thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but what does it mean for me? What can I actually do? What advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, don't bury your head in the sand. This is happening. It's not science fiction. It's the reality we're moving towards. So stay informed, keep learning, and be adaptable. The skills that are going to be most valuable in this future are those uniquely human ones. Creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, emotional intelligence.
Yeah, those are the skills that robots, at least for now, aren't very good at. And those are the skills that will allow us to thrive in a world where robots are, taking on more and more tasks.
Exactly. And I would add, don't just think about the threats. Think about the opportunities. What new possibilities might emerge in a world where robots are handling a lot of those tasks we don't want to do anyway? What could we achieve if we had, more time and energy to focus on the things that truly matter to us?
That's a really powerful thought. Instead of fearing the robot revolution, we can actually choose to see it as this opportunity to kind of reshape our world for the better. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. It's clear that these humanoid robots are going to have a huge impact on our lives, but it's really up to us to shape that impact, to make sure it's a positive one.
Absolutely. And this conversation is just the beginning. The future is unfolding right now, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
If you want to learn more about this topic, we've included a link to the Metatrend report in the show notes. It's a fantastic resource to learn more about the world of humanoid robots and the future that they're shaping.
Yeah, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep exploring. The future is full of possibilities, and it's up to us to make it a future we can all be excited about.